Yo guys, what's going on? It's Dueling Unlocked here. Today we're going to be looking at potential Duel Link's next staple card. So this is a SR in the next main box. So this is actually a free-to-play staple. It is limit 3 though, so we will see if people run it. But this seems pretty crazy. So what does Book of Eclipse do? It's a quick play spell that changes all face-up monsters on the field to face-down defense position. During the end phase, change as many face-down defense position monsters your opponent controls as possible to face-up defense position. Then your opponent draws equal to the number of monsters changed face-up by this effect. So at max, your opponent will get a +4 at the end phase, but the key thing is it's during the end phase. Another key thing, this card does not target. So Book of Moon targets, this card does not. So this can definitely stop a lot of plays. The downside, of course, is the opponent drawing, but if you can stop their turn, just like one Book of Eclipse, so this affects their whole field basically. The only thing this doesn't affect is Link monsters. So we're gonna take a look and see how this would fare versus the current meta, the decks in the tier list. So let's go and take a look here. So, versus Rockets. It might not be the best going turn 1, right? Because they'll probably just levy you pretty fast. But I guess they usually want to set up their monsters. Like, they usually have a lot of monsters on the field to try and get into Borload. So they'd have to try and levy you before that. Which is possible, but it actually probably would stop them from going to the Link. But they're gonna get a lot of draws, so I think it'd be solid versus Rockets. I don't know how crazy it would be, but yeah. Of course, you can't book their Links, so that is a thing to keep in mind. You won't be able to book Oral Sword or anything like that. But it's probably not too bad. Tracer can. I guess even Tracer effect doesn't dodge it, right? Because you can pop a rocket and then they just get another one. The other thing is rockets do float in the end phase, so it's gonna be really hard. If they have a lot of monsters on field to kill them, you have to kill them that turn basically. Otherwise, they're gonna get the extra draws, and then they also have their floats. So be careful with booking of Eclipsing a rocket play. So. Maybe not the best deck to Book of Eclipse then, but we'll see. Infernoble Knight got boosted up to tier 1. So I think this could be really good versus Infernoble Knight. So you can see they're running Metal Silver Armor. Your opponent cannot use the effective spell or trap or effect monsters that targets one monster except the equipped monster. So they have equips, booking cards that like to be equipped, non-target by the way. I think this is going to be really, really good versus Infernoble Knights. It's going to be crazy. Of course, they can still potentially make Ding on you, which is going to be annoying. But I could see this being pretty good. This is definitely a good deck versus definitely a good staple to run versus Infernobles. We have Sacred Beast. This is another deck that I think Book of Eclipse is going to be very good versus, because basically the field spell prevents you from targeting, it prevents you from being destroyed, but Book of Eclipse is non-target, so, and then you basically have a way to deal with the Sacred Beast, and then follow-up turn is hopefully you can finish them off. So yeah, Book of Eclipse, the thing is, you want to probably finish off your opponent as fast as possible, but when you use it, because your opponent's going to have so much more resources. Another thing to keep in mind is that Sacred Beasts do run a lot of hand traps, so you're giving them more access to hand traps when you give them the extra draws, so that might be a little bit harder to play around. And then now, but yeah, another thing with Sacred Beasts though is they have pretty limited resources, as they only have 2 real monsters. So if you can deal with them, I mean, that's pretty good. And one more thing is they do have the Skyfire, so if they have Haman and attack with Skyfire, they could just negate the Book of Eclipse. But is Book of Eclipse once per turn? This card is not once per turn. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Like, IDPs once per turn, that's another limit 3, but this is not. Okay. Pretty nice, pretty nice. So yeah, I think it's going to be really good versus Invernobles, really good versus this Sacred Beast. Versus Sky Strikers, Ray can obviously just dodge it. Can't book Lynx. I don't think it's going to be good versus Sky Strikers. So I feel like we're headed more toward like a side format. But like a lot of the tournaments are running side decks. So that, like, we just have Nibiru released. We've had plenty of side cards. But yeah, so we'll see if more tournaments go towards side format, or if we're gonna be in this. Okay, so Star Seraphs. This could be pretty good versus Star Seraphs, right? They're gonna get the draws anyway, right? But if you set Book of Eclipse turn 1, what can happen, right? Is like you can go ahead and when they have 3 monsters, you just Book of Eclipse them. They can use their skill to get rid of 1, but flip it and then basically have 1 monster, but you can't exceed with only 1 monster. So, they could potentially, like, if Book of Eclipse becomes pretty meta, people might start running Needle Sealing, and, like, they can set up pretty well with Needle. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Needle Sealing with Book of Eclipse is, I guess, like, you're booking your own monsters too, though, right? So, that's interesting, it's interesting. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe not the needle part. Alright, so yeah, I think it's good versus Star Seraphs. Dark Fluid? I mean, that seems like it'd be pretty good versus Dark Fluid, no? Obviously you have to stop their monsters before they get into the... Oh, they're running Riot Dragon in the deck now, that's interesting. But yeah, you have to stop their monster before they get into Dark Fluid, otherwise they could just negate you. So, but booking like 2 monsters in the main, or 2 or 3 monsters would be kind of crazy, because they need a lot to combo off. I think it'd be pretty good versus Dark Fluid. Sharks, I mean, non-target set, that seems pretty crazy to me. Yeah, I think it'd be very good versus Sharks as well. And then finally Unchained, probably not the best versus Unchained. So yeah, it seems like it's pretty meta determinative if the card's going to be good. Much like a lot of the other Limit 3 cards are, but the main thing is it's non-target, and that can really mess some decks up. The downside isn't too bad as long as you can finish your opponent off quick, or like you limit their resources. So yeah, that's what I think of Book of Eclipse. Do you guys think this is going to be the next meta card in Duel Links? Let me know.